The feeling of willingly move crowds is so thrilling. Even Prince Charles is willing to pay shillings.
Hello, world. Welcome to another episode of Songs in the Key of G with your host, me, Mark G. Tonight, I am going to profile my favorite song on the second album from Eric B and Rakim, Follow the Leader. Rakim, God MC, to the listeners, in my opinion, two flawless verses and examples of perfect MCing. I also should get it out of the way and just let you know right now that Rakim is my choice for the greatest MC of all time. To me, he's the GOAT. But that's the great thing about hip-hop. Who says I'm right, you know? I'm just a guy. I'm no expert. It's a very subjective thing, and this is just going to be my take. From Wyandanch, Long Island, William Griffin Jr., a.k.a. Rakim, was a member of a musical family. His father was a huge jazz enthusiast and had a very, very large collection of jazz records. And his mother was a singer, and his sister was a singer. His two older brothers were both multi-instrumentalists. His brother, Stevie Blass, would actually be involved in the production of a lot of the Eric B and Rakim stuff. His aunt was blues singer Ruth Brown. So you can see he comes from a very, very musical family. Rakim himself plays saxophone, drums, and reads music. So Rakim had a lot of musical insight that many artists of the day, or many hip-hop artists of the day, really didn't have. Like many kids of our generation, Rakim was immersed in hip-hop culture. At age 13, he joined a local crew, Cool Breeze and the Love Brothers. At that time, he was known by the MC name Kid Wizard. He really set himself apart as someone who had a new and emerging style. Now, Rakim himself takes his style and says that he built upon three pioneers. Now, one, he mentions Grandmaster Caz of the Cold Crush Brothers. Now, Grandmaster Caz, he credits with his wit and humor. Now, again, I'm familiar with Caz, and I've heard the tapes of the Cold Crush Brothers, and of course I'm familiar with what they did in Wild Style. But some of that stuff was so early on that you just had to be there. So admittedly, you know, I got to kind of take his word for it on Caz. But I definitely hear it in the next pioneer, and that is Kool Moe Dee. And he attributes Kool Moe Dee's storytelling, but also the way he fit words into the structure of his rhyme pattern. He didn't just rhyme the last word of each line. The other is Melly Mel, and he attributes Melly Mel's energy and lyricism. So he grew up, like I did, idolizing the masters. Then he started kind of exploring what it would be like to make solo music. So he started doing some demos with local producers, DJ Maniac and Nate Tinsley. And, notably, those guys were responsible for the first demo version of My Melody. So that's pretty cool. So it was around this same time that he became a 5%er and started calling himself Rakim. Now, at the time, Long Island, to the people who lived within the five boroughs, was like country. And they certainly didn't think that there were any good MCs out there. So one of the people that used to make the trek out to Long Island to see Rakim was his friend Biz Marquis. And it wasn't uncommon to see Biz show up at the local high school and beatbox for Rakim. There are tapes, you can hear them on YouTube. They're pretty cool. And in fact, you can hear the origins of the famous 7 MCs line from the first record. I take 7 MCs, put them in a line. I take 7 more brothers who think they can rhyme. Now it'll take 7 more before I go for mine. Now that's 21 MCs ate up at the same time. Classic line, and like I said, the origins are in those tapes. Eric B, who had already kind of established himself somewhat in the game and had connections with Marley Marl and also Mr. Magic, was trying to put together a compilation, and he basically got put on to two MCs. One was Rakim, the other was Freddie Fox. And there were two meetings scheduled, but Freddie Fox was told that he couldn't bring his crew. He was a part of a crew at the time. They only wanted one MC, so he didn't show up for the meeting. Rakim did, and the rest is kind of history. It's the summer of 1987, and I had just graduated high school. I was listening to Public Enemy, Yo Bum Rush the Show. It had dropped at the beginning of the year. I was still listening to the Beastie Boys, License to Ill. I was still listening to Run DMC, Raising Hell, and still staying up with kind of the dying gasps of Sugar Hill Records as well. But in July of 1987, that's pretty much where the whole game changed, when Eric B and Rakim dropped Paid in Full. Now, I'm a beat maker and a DJ by trade, but back then I must confess I used to write some raps, back when it was just okay to rap about your zodiac sign and throwing your hands in the air and things like that. But there were two MCs that came along that really kind of showed me that I better just kind of concentrate on the beats. The first one was LL Cool J. I was like, when he came along, I was like, maybe I shouldn't be writing rhymes. I can't do it like him. Then when Rakim comes out and I press play, and the first thing I hear is, I ain't no joke. I used to let the mic smoke, and now I slam it when I'm done and make sure it's broke. I'm just like, oh, yeah. Let's put this bike away. The style of the day was very much just rhyming the last word of each line. Rakim came in and he looked at it with much more of a musical view. And again, this has to do with him being a trained musician. So here is my rudimentary music theory lesson for this evening. Now, pop music in general, and hip-hop definitely, is what they call 4/4 time, which means it's in counts of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, music is constructed of bars, and in 4/4 time, one bar is one count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But they're not just 1, 2, 3, 4. It's everything in between. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and every little spot in between. So if you have 16 bars, which most verses are 16 bars, or that's kind of the general structure in hip hop, then you have all these little places that you can put words and breaths. So when he did something like, I'm the R, the A to the K I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am? It was more akin to a jazz saxophone solo. More than that, he just has great lyrics. When I heard Thinking of a Master Plan, 'cause ain't nothing but sweat inside my hands, so I dig into my pocket and all my money spent. So I did deeper, but still coming up with length. So I start my mission, leave my residence. Thinking, how could I get some dead presidents? I need money. I used to be a stick-up kid, so I think of all the devious things I did. Rakim changed my hip-hop perspective, but also my persona. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be cool and quiet and measured in my actions. I wanted to have knowledge of self. I'm not a 5%er, but that part made sense to me. Those are ideals that I carry with me today, and they were instilled in me by hip-hop and specifically Rakim. Fast forward a year to July of 1988, and that marks the release of their second album, Follow the Leader. Now, Follow the Leader is my favorite album. I just thought it had a step up in terms of the beats, but also Rakim is just destroying the mic on this. And Rakim's not a real braggadocious guy. He doesn't really talk about, like battling you straight ahead. He just kind of shows you. The funny thing about Rakim is he was always like taking you on a journey. And that's what it feels like to me. Like he's guiding me along, explaining, these things to me as we're moving through some story. Like travel at magnificent speeds around the universe. Stop bugging. A brother said, dig him. I never dug him. He couldn't follow the leader long enough, so I drug him. He was always just kind of pulling you along, not necessarily telling you he was better than you, but showing you he was. Super dope. Now, this album has several great songs. Follow the Leader, amazing. Lyrics of Fury, Microphone Fiend. This is a fantastic album. But my favorite song was always the album cut to the listeners. And the reason being is because, I always just felt like I listened a little closer than everybody else. I kind of felt like he was talking to me. And I really loved that because it's two of the most perfect hip hop verses ever. And there's no hook. It's just him repeating to the listeners. But every once in a while, he stops and says, you still listening? Like, are you keeping up with me? And that's what's beautiful. Rakim knows he's better than you. He shows he's better than you. The beat starts, and it's the drum break from the Headhunters' God Made Me Funky. But it's also accompanied by Rakim's older brother, Stevie Blass, playing on the keys the horn line from the band Mandrill's song, Fat City Strut. Rakim comes in. It's to the listeners. For those that have an ear for this, state-of-the-art engineer for the mix, eardrums are playing along of what I'm saying, you're singing a song. Stevie Blass on the keyboard swinging along. But you don't have to dance, play it cool and listen. My DJ's mixing, and I'll do the quizzing. 'Cause who is number one if not best and better? Here's a hint, the 18th letter. The rhymes are sportable, microphone is portable, for any immortal man's swords is not affordable. Never take a loss, 'cause I'm hard to beat. I ain't cheap, but don't sell me a dream. I don't sleep. I'm paid in full, so save the bull. This ain't a stick-up. You don't have to wave until you feel sure, but you want more than wipe your sweat, 'cause I just wanted to see how hype you can get. 'Cause when I came in the door, stepping hard enough to shake the floor, I just started, but the others can't make no more. Running out of beats, breaks, and out of time. If I was gone, you'd be running out of rhymes. I prove records don't have to be long. If it's understood and the story is strong, you can speak out and hold the crowd as prisoners. The people are peepless. It's to the listeners. I'm the Lord was something you can absorb. Try and control and be cautious, but the cuts in the cord make me deeper than down and make the crowd around. People are peepless, 'cause the soloist found phrases, thoughts made by the R, of course. One thing I do is keep them different and far from yours. You keep talking. When will all the damage be done? You say you're ruling, but when I'm in the place, you don't come. Maybe you're waiting to see what I'm making. One more style gets taken, then I'ma be breaking. The patterns are causes. The piano is soft, but make it hard for you to start where I left off. You find yourself lost till the point gets across. You hit reverse to rewind it. That's when you hit pause. I set the scene. First you hear mix, and then the microphone fiends in effect. You still listening? And I'm like, yeah, Rakim, I'm still listening. Keep it going. Pay close attention, never before mentioned. Listen up, I got a brand new invention. Made from a musician, it's notes that play crisp. Listeners listen to what I wrote on the list. Copywritten, but still bitten. It almost sound like, almost pumping, but it ain't down like. My record's supposed to sound. Watch it goes around. Records are broken, smashed on the ground. That ain't my melody. Brothers keep running up and telling me others are trying to flow smooth and steadily. My favorite line in the song right here. Potholes are left in my path as I crash and bruise whoever refuse and cruise right past them. 'Cause I just left to do it easy forever, death. Till I get back, you better stay in step. At the speakers you'll stare. If I was there, your description is letters full of poetical messages. This is for the listeners. So those are my thoughts on Eric B and Rakim's To the Listeners from the Follow the Leader record. What's your favorite Eric B and Rakim song? Who's your all-time favorite MC? Drop a comment and let us know. So be good to each other. The world needs a little bit more of that. And until next time, this is Mark G saying peace.